Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and I have 7 RAW DNG files for you to download and play with from the Sony a7 III. Now, I'm able to open them in Lightroom, but keep in mind that if you've seen any reviews up until this point about the photos, that it's more than likely that the reviewers were not able to open the RAW files yet to determine whether the camera was good or not, and have based their reviews off of JPEGs. Now, the only software that I know of that can open these files is straight out of Sony's software. So up until this point, these may be the first RAW files that you can edit in Adobe Lightroom from the Sony a7 III, and that's why I posed the question for you to determine whether the files are good or not. So let's turn to the computer right now. I've got 7 RAW files, and 3 of them I'm going to include the JPEGs with, just because people may want to see what does a JPEG straight out of the camera look like. Now, these are 14-bit uncompressed RAW, and it's the highest res JPEG that you could do. So I'm going to give you a cross-section of images. These are all edited. The JPEGs are not edited, they're straight out of the camera. But so I'm giving you a file that is 100 ISO right here, shot outside, so you can determine whether or not this is good for you. I'm giving you a portrait that is shot at 100 ISO, so you can go in here, see the skin tone, see the color, play around with it, see how it works for you to go ahead and edit this in Lightroom. Another one is, what is this, at 640 ISO, to determine how this looks in a portrait setting using the 70 to 200 2.8. The color may need to be tweaked a little more here, but that's why I'm giving you the RAW file. And I'm also trying to figure out, did I hit the focus or not, or am I being super critical? And it is there. Now, this guy was a little harder for eye focus because his eyes are set back a little bit more, so that's something to keep in mind, but I'm pretty sure that is good. So there's a little higher ISO. This one's at 800 ISO. I love the colors and tones that I got out of this, but I also want to go down here and hit Enable Profile Correction, and you have that option as well inside of Lightroom. Now, you can get rid of the vignette. They had this really bad like this when I clicked on it, but look at yeah, I like actually the vignette in there, but check out the straight right down here. Look at how straight the table is. Oh, that hurts me that I have a little bit there and none there. But did I actually have it in the first place? No, I screwed it up. But he's right in the middle. That can straighten it out. That's a good sample file to work with. But these are the files I want to look at. This is 5000 ISO. This is the RAW file, edited. This is 5000 ISO, and this is the JPEG straight out of camera. So you have the JPEG, and I turned off high noise reduction. I don't ever leave that on. And I want to put these next to each other so that you can take a look at these side by side. You can do this in Lightroom yourself. We can zoom in closer, take a look. You can say, well, one is better than the other if you want, or there may be more noise here based off of my editing. The JPEG looks okay. The problem is when you start editing the JPEG is when you start to run into issues. Also, the purple fringing, you see a little bit more here with the JPEG than you do with the RAW file. But again, I'm giving you these files so that you can pixel peep and you can determine whether or not it's good or not. That's why I'm giving you a cross-section from 100 ISO to 5000 and including the JPEGs so you can figure out, is this $2,000 camera for you? We will have our full real-world review as soon as it's edited. I have to finish editing the RAW files now that I can open them, and then Steven is going to try and quickly get through editing the real-world review footage from Las Vegas. It takes a while, but bear with us here. So those are those 2 files. So now I want to go to the next 2 files. So I'm going to go back here. I want to click on this one and this one. I'm going to hit N. Then I'm going to do this comparison mode. The RAW files on the left, the JPEGs on the right. Let's zoom in here. You can look at both of these files. You can download the DNG. You can get the full res right off the camera, and you can determine which one is right for you. Now, of course, you have more tweakability with the RAW file than the JPEG. Once you start tweaking JPEGs, you're already editing a baked file, and that's going to add more issues the more you edit it. But I'm not here to argue RAW versus JPEG because the JPEG looks good on this one out of the camera, though I would probably brighten it up and play with the color because it looks a little too yellow and green, but I like how this file looks. I like how I was able to lock the focus in on the eye even with all of these other distractions going around. Now I had one more file that I added as a late addition here. It's this file. Now this is Ken Rockwell, and I wanted to get his picture. So under Develop, I'm going to go back into Develop. This is where this file started. This is the RAW file. This is where I edited it. This is the JPEG. Okay, so the JPEG isn't edited yet. I'm going to go in here and the first thing I want to do is I want to raise up the shadows because you can't really see his face. And it does pretty good bringing the shadows back, but I wonder how the rest of the file will end up tweaking. And of course, it becomes personal preference how you edit this. You guys can go ahead and edit and then determine if the file held up or didn't hold up. That's a little too far there. And then there's a little too much magenta in here. This is just a quick little edit. And I didn't do the linear, which I normally do, but I don't want to go too far because then you get a lot of that in his face. So I'm going to click here, click here. I want to go back to library because I want to go ahead and compare these side by side. And we've got RAW file on the left and JPEG on the right. So what you can see right here is that I think the RAW file is a heck of a lot cleaner, and you can do more with it than what you can do with the JPEG, of course. It's not bad what you can do with the JPEG, but it starts to look not as good. That's my opinion. I'm looking at it right here. I'm looking at the issues in the background with the colors. I'm finding that to be not as good. But anyway, that's me talking about that. All right, Kitty, you want to come up? You can come up. So download these RAW files. Like I said, almost no software can open these at this point, but these DNGs will open inside of Lightroom. And remember that any reviews that are out there right now are not taken from the RAW files unless they use Sony software and tell you that they use Sony software to open the RAW files. So that's why we haven't put out our real-world review yet, because we wanted to wait until we could open the RAW files in Lightroom to then have a look. So that's it. That's pretty much the first opportunity that anybody has out there to edit a RAW file from the A7 III in Lightroom. So go ahead and download. The links are down below. If you haven't checked out My Gear Vault, it's the best way to input, organize, and protect your gear. And also, if you don't have insurance and you're worried about all of your stuff getting stolen and having to replace it, go ahead and download the app. Under the Insurance tab, take the questionnaire, and then you can get a quote for coverage, and you can basically be bound in the same day and now have the peace of mind that if your stuff does get stolen or broken, you can have it replaced because you have insurance. So that's it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.